Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Storytime video. In this video, we're going to be looking at the subreddit r/entitledparents. If you like these videos, do consider subscribing so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax, and listen to some entitled parents. Entitled anti-vaxxers cause over half my class to catch the chickenpox. Expect a thank you. This happened back when I was in kindergarten, so some details are a bit fuzzy, but the story is very much real. When I was in kindergarten, entitled boy, we'll call him Blake, came to class one day with chickenpox. This wasn't a mild case either. The spots were angry and red, and within a few hours, a couple of our classmates were itching. My teacher had immediately called his parents, but they refused to pick him up, saying that it would be good for the other children to be around him and asking her to just leave him in the classroom. Now, only about half my class had gotten their chickenpox shots at that point. My parents were really good about getting my brothers and I shots when we were supposed to get them, but as this was early in the school year, a lot of parents hadn't gotten their kids vaccinated for chickenpox yet. To enroll in kindergarten at my elementary school, you had to either vaccinate your kids before the school starts, or within 3 months after. My teacher didn't know what to do. The office told her that if the parents wanted the kid to remain in class, she was technically supposed to let him, unless other parents complained, or the principal deemed him a danger to the other students. The principal was over at the high school on the other side of the city. He was principal of both. Weird Christian school thing. He would rush over when he could, but because of the school handbook, Blake had to remain in class. My teacher asked the school secretary to call our parents, but she said she only had the home numbers for most parents and ended up with a lot of answering machines. So in kindergarten, everyone sat at table groups, and I was at Blake's table. He was carrying on like normal, yelling about Power Rangers. I was the only kid at our little table who had been vaccinated. I remember feeling bad because one of the girls was scheduled to get her shot the next day. Talk about bad luck. A lot of the kids at my table started itching, and the girl who was supposed to get her shot the next day showed me her arm, and she had very faint pink dots. I don't know if chickenpox usually moves that quickly, or if Blake just had a super mutant strand, but I was freaked out. I knew I had gotten a shot that my mum promised would protect me from getting sick, but I was also 5, and still thought Stitch from Lilo and Stitch was a real being who lived in Hawaii. I was convinced that touching Blake would mean I would die from chickenpox, so my friends and I avoided him like he had, well, the plague. Finally, the principal bursts into the room and kneels down in front of Blake. He asks Blake to please come with him so they can call his parents together. About 20 minutes later, the entitled parents show up. Stuff hits the fan. Entitled mum, probably called Karen, starts screaming about how both she and her husband are licensed chiropractors and know all about the evils of vaccines and how vaccines give people autism. My older brother has Asperger's, and if this had happened like 5 years later, I could have roasted the hell out of these anti-vaxxers for their stupidity. Entitled dad tries to calm Karen down, but also quietly tells my principal that as licensed chiropractors, they know and have seen how vaccines not only give children autism, but also make them gay. As a lesbian, I again could have roasted the hell out of them if this had taken place years later. My principal firmly tells them that Blake needs to go home and can only come back when he is no longer sick. The entitled parents try to fight back, but my principal is firm, and Blake is dragged away from my class, begging his parents for a new Power Rangers toy. As the week went on, more and more of my classmates dropped like flies, until only about 7 of us remained. We were the lucky 7 who had been vaccinated prior to the start of the school year, and since most of the class was homesick, we got to play a ton of games and pick out the books we wanted to read. Usually the class voted, and we 7 were often among the outvoted group. After a few days, my classmates began to return, not a red spot in sight. But it was a few weeks later that the real kicker happened. The entitled parents sent out emails to all the parents of the kids in my class, painting themselves as the victims and heroes for, quote unquote, exposing the class to life's natural vaccine. My dad got mad, because even though that I didn't get sick, thanks parents who were on top of my vaccinations, y'all rock. A lot of my classmates did. The entitled parents asked for a thank you from the other parents, and needless to say, they got no thank yous, and only a lot of passive-aggressive remarks and glares in the hallway. Also, don't feel too bad for Blake. He turned out to be one of the biggest entitled douchebags I've ever met. I went to school with him all the way up through high school, and he's one of the worst humans I've had the displeasure of dealing with. I guess the entitled apple doesn't fall far from the entitled tree. Now that is a Karen moment. Entitled mother thinks she can take photos of other people's children without their parents' permission. Cast of characters. Me, entitled mother, daughter of entitled mother, my co-worker, who I will refer to as G. I worked for an IKEA store in their Smallland factory for a couple of years. Overall, the only good thing about the job was the kids. Although sometimes we'd get a few kids who were really violent and had to be kicked out. Oh, and I had cool co-workers. There's also rules about who can and who cannot go into Smallland. Like, there's a height requirement because of the ball pit. The pit is too deep for kids shorter than 37 inches, too shallow for kids taller than 54 inches. Also, kids have to be potty trained, although we've made exceptions for children with disabilities, of course. Enter this entitled mother. Her daughter was a few inches above the maximum height, but I had her daughter take off her shoes anyway, so she could stand in front of the height marker and be measured. We always had to measure the kids with their shoes off. They had to take them off anyway, so it's no big deal. Even with her shoes off, the daughter was way too tall. She wasn't even upset about it. She took one look at the place and realised it was designed for little kids, and she's probably 12 years old at least, and she looked totally uninterested. G is watching this whole time. I informed the entitled mother that her daughter doesn't meet the height requirement, so we couldn't let her into Smallland. Can't you just make an exception? I can't. If she jumps into the ball pit, she could seriously hurt her ankles because it's not deep enough for her. I don't want her to get hurt. Any normal person would find this to be a good thing that I don't want your child to get hurt. But there's another kid in there that's taller than her. She says this with a whiny voice while her daughter rolls her eyes, points to a girl who is nowhere near her daughter's height. And no, she's not. We don't have anyone in here that's that tall. My co-worker was already becoming annoyed. I promise she won't jump in the ball pit. Ma'am, how many times have I told a kid not to do something and they do it anyway? Besides, if I make an exception for you, then I have to do that for everyone, and we might as well not have any rules. G was pretty loud at this point. Can't blame her, because we dealt with this many parents every single shift we worked. We have this policy for the safety of the kids. I can call my manager who can explain it to you in more depth, but we can't let your daughter in. The entitled mother storms off, daughter in tow. I figure, okay, that wasn't so bad. Wrong. She goes into the marketplace entrance, which opens up to the other side of Smallland, where we have an open window and a counter for pickup time. Entitled mother takes out her phone and starts taking pictures of the children in our care. I kid you not. We had a signage saying don't do that, but when you're an entitled brat, you'll do whatever you want, regardless of how creepy it is. I said loudly, "You can't take pictures of other people's children." I step in the path of her phone, so she probably got a weird photo of my forehead. Entitled mother raises the phone up to get around me. I'm 5 foot, so my height can't even block her properly. She says, "I need evidence for what you guys have done." What are you, some kind of creeper? Stop taking pictures of these kids. By this point, so many customers are staring at entitled mother, clearly concerned about and disturbed by her behaviour. You don't have the right to take pictures of someone else's child. Do it again and I'm calling security. Lol, our security was really cool, and I was thinking afterward, I hope the head of security is the one who talks to her, because oh boy, he is a huge guy, like bouncer size. Sweetheart, wonderful family man, but intimidating to anyone who doesn't know that. Entitled mother, realising I mean business about the security. Fine, whatever, but what you're doing to my daughter isn't fair. Entitled mother backs off and goes away. What should we do now? I mean, that was pretty creepy. We don't know what she'll do with those pictures. I'm calling security anyway. I did just that. I gave them a full description of the events, what entitled mother and her daughter looked like, said her kid did nothing wrong of course, and was describing the daughter so they had a perfect match. Told them which direction they went. They did go talk to entitled mother, and explained why she couldn't do that, and how serious it was. I also called our manager in the meantime to fill him in on what happened. He was happy with how we handled it. The kids in our care seemed to be fine. They definitely noticed because we were loud. G and I were very honest with the parents, told them a general summary of the events and that our security was handling it. None of those parents were upset. Customers who witnessed it did come over and occasionally ask if everything was okay, or just give their opinions about entitled mother's behaviour. Security came by right as one cool customer came up and told us that he witnessed the whole thing and wanted to talk to security to support us and the kids. I thought that was so awesome, made a creepy situation a lot less creepy. The customer did speak to security on our behalf. If you're wondering about the state of the pictures, security watched her delete them and confirmed with her that they were off the phone. I thought they had asked her to do it, but they said she had offered to, and made it a big statement about how she didn't want to be arrested for child abuse. Moral of the story? Don't be a creepy weirdo and take pictures of other people's kids. Hey everyone, I hope you're all having a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you did and you're not already subscribed, then please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. If you want to see other videos, then click on screen right now. But thanks again and I will see you tomorrow.